We are going to look ridiculous next year, aren't we?
Hello and welcome to the Lunchroom Syndicate. Jay and Christopher coming with you once again from the jock table. Why? Because I think we forgot about the other ones. I feel like I'm more in a clique now than I ever was in high school, though. But we are doing the Pittsburgh Penguins all-time team today.
5 Stanley Cup championships in their history in 2 different eras. But Jay, let's talk about how we are going to pick our teams and kind of the techniques we're going to use here in this video.
Yeah, we are putting together a complete lineup. So we are going to have 4 lines on our forward group. We are going to have 3 pairing on defense. Now we're going to take 2 goaltenders as well. Our criteria for getting it is really whatever the hell Christopher and I feel like doing at the time. I know I usually lean a little bit more towards the name recognition. Christopher, I think you look a little more just at the stats and take a little harder line on stats, the importance of the stats on there.
Absolutely. That is, you would be correct on that. And part of that is because I don't want to dismiss somebody because I haven't heard of a guy in the 70s when they put up a monster amount of stats. You know, I want to give them the recognition they deserve. I want to be forthright on that and admit to those people in the YouTube land that maybe I don't know a guy. All right. We do these in tiers. We have 3 different colors. One color has to be on there. The next color is someone that should be talked about, and then there's they belong on this list, but they have no real shot of being on this team.
But as usual, to start off, we are looking at the face of the franchise, the go-to guy for the Pittsburgh Penguins, the one that everybody immediately thinks about in Pittsburgh. And if that name isn't Jaromir Jagr, you're doing it wrong, Pittsburgh. He is the greatest player ever for the Pittsburgh Penguins. 806 games with them, over 1,000 points with them, and the sick Jagr mullet.
Look, it's hard to argue against a mullet. I agree. But you are so wrong here. The greatest player in Pittsburgh Penguin history isn't Jaromir Jagr. It's Sidney Crosby. Sidney Crosby gets so much hate because he's great. I didn't mean that to rhyme, but here we are. Sidney Crosby has over 1,300 points in over 1,000 games played in the modern era, where scoring is down compared to the Jaromir Jagr days. You need him to win a scoring title. Guess what? He'll win you a scoring title. You need him to win the Rocket Richard. He's done a couple of those too. He could score. He can assist. He could point. He could take a penalty too. He has over 700 in his career.
And you're talking like that's not Jagr's game? Like, this applies to Sidney Crosby and not Jaromir Jagr. Jaromir Jagr did all that. He did it better, and he did it with a lot more speed and size. He had
Mario Lemieux playing with him. Sidney Crosby doesn't have
Milken. Sidney Crosby doesn't have Letang. Sidney Crosby didn't win any championships with Marc-Andre Fleury.
Fuck off. Sidney Crosby, when you think Pittsburgh Penguins, like, Jaromir Jagr is a great choice. Sidney Crosby is the Pittsburgh Penguin. He has supplanted both. He has supplanted Jaromir Jagr, in my opinion. I'm saying it. I'm saying in my opinion, damn it. If no one can stop me.
All right, fine. I concede. The face of the franchise is fucking Mario Lemieux.
You and I are not the biggest Mario Lemieux fans, but this is a man who has 1,700 points in 900 games, almost 2 points a game, which is impressive, and lost many years to cancer as well. Came back and was still productive after he came back. Saved the franchise by becoming their owner.
What position would you like to start with to get our team going? I would like to leave center for last.
Okay, we will leave center for last. Let's talk about the guy that you had argued for. Let's go to the right wing side. Let's start on Jaromir Jagr's side. We have, that is a hairdo, Robert Brown, Pascal Dupuis, Patrick Hornquist, Jaromir Jagr, Rick Cahill, Phil Kessel, Alex Kovalev, Joe Mullen, Joseph Provenovst, Mark Recchi, and Rick Takick.
Where do you think Robert Brown belongs?
Hairstyle white. You could convince me that's a mugshot. 342 points in 414 games played, which is damn good. I feel like he needs to be at least in black tier.
Pascal Dupuis. This is a guy for me that was just carried by better players. So even his numbers of 247 and 452 aren't bad. They're not great. He more or less, he's on here because Pittsburgh does not have a whole lot of depth on the wing sides. A little bit more here on the right wing side than we're going to find over on the left wing side. Nothing too impressive for me. He stays white.
And speaking of guys that have been carried by better teammates, Patrick Hornquist, a solid player.
Do you have anything different to say about him than what we said about Pascal Dupuis? They're like interchangeable to me.
No,
same guy.
I have nothing. I mean, basically the same point totals. He's slightly better point per game. He has exactly the same goals and assists. That's cool. But yeah, no, I have nothing more. They're plug and place.
Jaromir Jagr, we already talked about him for face of the franchise. Jaromir Jagr is arguably the best player that's ever played for Pittsburgh.
If he never went to the KHL for those few years, he would probably have been the only player to have more points than Wayne Gretzky has assists. Ricky Ho, 700 games played, almost a little bit under a point per game player, and based off the stats here and what little I know of him, I feel like he has to be in the yellow.
Phil Kessel, man, he's an interesting dude.
First off, the ultimate Iron Man, maybe ever get to that point in his career, just in general.
Yeah, didn't miss time, put up the points in Pittsburgh. I think his best hockey was played in Pittsburgh. But still, what I remember most from Kessel is all of his fucking weird ass interviews that he always seemed to find himself in. Even when he's not initiating it, you have Pierre Maguire here talking about like wanting to smell his breath and shit. Like it was just so strange. One of the weirdest non-Brizgalov interviews I have ever seen. It's probably a black tier for me.
Kovalev, 365 games, almost damn near a point per game player.
One of the most skilled players, and really needed more points with the amount of skill that he had. He just never really lived up to what he could have. I'm putting him at a black because he should have been better. And Joe Mullen, I know, played just a few more games, didn't have as many points as Kovalev, but he played in a different time. Oftentimes those Pittsburgh teams were struggling. Joe Mullen is somebody that I definitely think of with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Joe Mullen for me is yellow tier.
Provost. I got a feeling we're going to be running into a theme with this pitcher.
Provost is easily a yellow tier guy here.
Yeah.
We're going to be seeing that with this entire line. So it's a hard, tough player to go up against. So not just very difficult to play against because in one end, he was really tough to play against in the other end because he was just under, 4 points shy of a point per game. Mark Recchi, yellow tier.
And finally, we'll end the right wing side with Rick Takick. I do remember his name with the Pittsburgh Penguins, so I'm a little bit surprised to see the limited amount of games played.
You're leaning towards leaving him white? I was leaning towards he was a black tier for me. Again, he's over a point per game. Jaromir Geiger for face of the franchise. He's easily number one on here. Do you have anybody that you're looking at that's a number two?
Probably Pronovost.
Pronovost?
Yeah,
Okay, I was kind of between him and Kehoe myself. Joe Mullen or Mark Recchi.
If I'm going to be frank with you, for me, it's Mark Recchi. Point per game player. He, like you said, he was just tough to play against. And he was an alternate captain, and it's just he's a damn good player. To the left, fuck, to the left. God damn, I just gave the YouTube shit. God fuck. Anyway,
who are we looking at over here on the left wing side, Zach?
Here on the left wing side, I don't know why I started singing that. We have Phil Bork, Matt Cook. That is a great picture of Randy Cunningworth, Jake Gunsel, Chris Kunitz, Troy Looney, Lowell Mcdonald, James Neal, Gary Risling, Kevin Stevens, and John Stewart. Not that John Stewart.
Did I get the wrong guy?
Maybe. Probably not. That's little did people know that he played hockey for a little bit.
Well, I mean, he's like, I'm assuming he would be good at that. He's good at everything else.
It's true, and he was even on the WWE at one point.
Well, damn it. Well, if that's the wrong guy, well, then he's probably going to stay white tier. We might as well just get that out of the way.
Yes.
Shit, you got my hopes up. I thought John Stewart moonlighted as a Penguin. Phil Bork, Pittsburgh's going to know him probably a lot more for his interviewing and commentary work and camera work than as a player, although he had 344 games with them. Over a penalty minute per game, but well under a point per game on this list. You know, great to have with the Pittsburgh Penguins organization. Does not make it as a player. White tier.
Next up, Matt Cook. Kind of in a similar vein as Phil Bork. And also a pretty dirty player at times, although I expected more penalty minutes, but
yeah, one of the most hated players.
One of the most hated players of the generation. But I mean, if Phil was a white, I feel like he's a white.
Randy Cunningworth is an interesting player for me. He started his career in Buffalo. He is now coaching in the Sabre system. He returned back to Buffalo. I remember him most in Ottawa and in one playoff series in particular. I could only imagine how much he was getting under the skin of everyone else that he was playing, because he was under mine watching all the damn time. So for that, probably black tier.
Oh, Smiley here. Man, you're photogenic, aren't you? Jake Gunsel, a very good left winger. How much his stats are propelled based because of what he's played with is going to be a question, is the question. I'm going to go black.
Jake Gunsel is damn good. He's overshadowed by players that cast a really big shadow.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard not to be.
And speaking of Chris Kunitz. Same applies here. Although, we've seen him after his Crosby days, and those point totals did take a dip.
Yeah.
But here in Pittsburgh, a big part of those Penguin teams that went far and won in the playoffs and put up a good amount of points in the games that he played. He's another black tier for me. Troy Lonnie, a decent player. You can see he has a lot more penalty minutes than games played. He's a white tier for me, but he's got 2 cups with him, so somebody that I felt had to go on there, and a name that stuck out for me.
Part of that line we were talking about with Pronovost, Lowell Mcdonald, part of that great line. But Lowell Mcdonald, our first yellow tier of this group.
James Neal, really good at putting the puck in the net, had just a really hard shot and played really hard also. 199 games, it's more than a cup of coffee, but his tenure wasn't long enough for a yellow tier for me, so he's a black tier.
The man with the meanest chin I've ever seen, Gary Rissling.
Yeah, I'm going to cut you off here, Zon. There is no fucking way Gary Rissling is making this fucking team. What a fucking piece of shit. And if he's got a fucking problem with that, remember, my name is Christopher. Come find me.
And fuck you too. Your name is not Christopher because you said your name was Jay at the beginning. Go find that guy. I ain't telling this guy no. You telling this motherfucker no?
No,
the meanest motherfucker I've ever. That's the meanest motherfucker I've ever seen. Like that dude just looks like he ate glass.
Yeah. Where do you tier Gary off?
Well, it's yellow. Clearly. That's player number one, face of the franchise.
I probably would have gone black tier with.
I'm with you. I'm all reality. I'm black. I mean, he just doesn't have the points, but he's someone you don't like. He's someone's got
points don't matter with him. My big reason going black with him is his tenure.
A slightly nicer guy, but still over 1,000 penalty minutes. Kevin Stevens. What a player.
Yeah.
Pretty clear yellow tier here. 555 points in 522 games and still had over 1,000 penalty minutes. This is the most obvious of yellow tiers for me on this left side.
Kevin Stevens, Lowell Mcdonald, Jake Gensel, Chris Kunitz, left wingers for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Where are we heading to next?
Stay on the left side. Let's do LD, left defense. We have Russ Anderson, Doug, I almost said Booger, Roger, Dave Burrows. Hey, that's a name I know. Randy Carlisle, obviously more known for coaching. Paul Coffey, Brian Dumoulin, Sergei Gonchar, Jim Johnson, Darius Kasparaitis, Oli Mata, Paul Martin, and Brooks Orpik.
Russ Anderson, he's a name that I know. I don't think his stats prove anything above a white tier.
Doug Bodger, a little bit better on the points department, 167 and 299 games, so his point per game is better. Not quite as good on the penalty minute side. He feels borderline between the white and black.
That's kind of where I'm at too. So we can go ahead and mark him black. Dave Burrows, second most amount of games played on the left defense, 132 points in 573 games, 301 penalty minutes, just nothing stands out with Dave Burrows. He's a white tier yet.
Now we're getting to a little bit better defenseman, Randy Carlisle, 397 games played with 323 points, 582 penalty minutes. He feels like a yellow tier for me.
Paul Coffey is one of the best defensemen to ever fucking play the game, period. He had 331 games in Pittsburgh, had 440 points. That's 100 points better than a point per game on the defensive side. I know we're not to the end yet. He's the number one left defenseman though.
Brian Dumoulin, kind of similar to some of the guys we mentioned earlier. A bunch of games played, just not a lot here on the stats wise. I don't know. Didn't watch him play, unfortunately. So maybe he was probably a pretty good stay-at-home defenseman when you play that many games. You got to do something right. And he was an assistant captain, so there is something there. But only 96 points and only 106 penalty minutes as well. There's not a lot here that screams anything more than the white tier.
Sergei Gonchar, a hell of a defenseman, 322 games, 259 points in that. Just real solid offensive defenseman, no slouch in the defensive zone either. He's a strong black tier.
Jim Johnson, 390 games played, 109 points with 658 penalty minutes. Again, pretty similar to Russ Anderson's stats. There's not a lot here from on the surface that would point to anything more than the white tier.
Darius Kasparaitis, a name that I'm hoping you would know.
I do.
Tough son of a bitch. He's another strong black tier.
Next up, we have Oli Mata, a guy that you absolutely love coming into the draft.
Yeah, I don't understand people's attitude towards Oli Mata.
Didn't seem like he lived up to the offensive potential that he had.
He's a white tier, but he's somebody that I really like Oli Mata's game. Paul Martin is going to be another white tier guy.
Really solid defensive defenseman for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Brooks Orpik played a ton of games, 703 games. Was not a point producer, but was someone that's going to kick your ass on the ice a bit. 734 penalty minutes.
This is a guy here that I really don't know where to put Brooks Orpik.
I would say since we're in a bit of confusion, I feel like we put him into the black tier.
That means Randy Carlisle is our number 2 selection. And now we need to choose between Doug Bodger, Darius Kasparaitis, Sergei Gonchar, or Brooks Orpik.
I'm going to lean towards Kasparaitis because we felt more sure of his place than we felt with Brooks Orpik.
Now we have Kasparaitis and Sergei Gonchar.
Sergei Gonchar, he wasn't anyone to sniff a bone at here. I don't know if that's a saying, but it is now.
Yeah, I would not sniff a bone at Sergei Gonchar, but Kasparaitis was mean in front of the net. He neutralized the other team. When I hear that name, I'm like, that's Pittsburgh Penguin. That's the team that I associate Darius Kasparaitis with. I don't associate Sergei Gonchar with Pittsburgh. Let's stick to the defense. Let's finish it up over here on the right defensive side.
We actually have some good ones, some decent ones here. But let's talk about them. Rod Buskus, Kevin Hatcher, Randy Hillier, Chris Letang, Ian Moran, Larry Murphy, Justin Schultz, and Ron Stackhouse.
Rod Buskus, 431 games, had just shy of 1,000 penalty minutes. He's a yellow tier for me.
Kevin Hatcher, 140 points in 220 games. Maybe a pretty good stay-at-home defenseman too, but he feels white.
Randy Hillier, he spent a good amount of time in Pittsburgh. His final season with Pittsburgh was their championship year here in 1991. I could not pick him out of that lineup though, so he stays white.
Chris Letang, absolute rock and stud in the back of the Sidney Crosby era. One of the best offensive defensemen in the league at times, and damn good back on the back end as well. Easy yellow tier, absolutely. And love Chris Letang.
Ian Moran, another really tough defenseman, stay-at-home defenseman, assistant captain during his time there. I really like Ian Moran. He's a black tier.
Larry Murphy, you immediately get bumped up a tier at minimum, being a point per game defenseman, and he was a point per game right-handed defenseman. That alone probably makes him a yellow tier.
Justin Schultz.
He was in Edmonton for a bit and it wasn't well liked, but then got traded to Pittsburgh, and then he was really good in Pittsburgh. He just had a weird career. And then he's played well since the Edmonton days, but
yeah, Edmonton, a bit of a roller coaster career, but I'd still mark his time in Pittsburgh as a black tier.
Old Ron Stackhouse, that's a yellow tier mustache. I'll say that.
Not just with that, I mean, a mean player. Look at those assist totals that he has. That's who I believe has the record for 4 assists in one period for a defenseman.
He's a yellow tier as well.
Who do you give the number 1 spot to?
For me, it's Letang. Ron Stackhouse played 600 plus games. He was a mean motherfucker. Look at those eyebrows and that stash. 343 points, 277 penalty minutes, or it's 277 assists. Larry Murphy damn near matched his point and assist totals in almost half the games.
We are off at the goaltenders. Who are we looking at here in net?
We have Tom Barrasso, Marc-Andre Flower, Denise Huron, Matt Murray, moonlighting for a little while, Cam Newton and Ken Riggett.
Why are you laughing at Cam Newton?
Oh, this fucking hair, man.
Yeah, I know. What?
I'm not even laughing about the fact that it's clearly not that Cam Newton. It's that
Wait,
fucking hair.
what?
He's also wearing that old lady thing, that old lady hood thing. That
Yeah, that's the best part of Cam Newton. Did I get the wrong guy again?
You got the wrong guy.
Fuck.
That's fucking great.
Well, I guess Cam Newton's out. I'm going to break with how we normally do it because we have a shorter list here and we can more easily do this. There's only one yellow tier here for me.
There is, and it's obviously Marc-Andre Fleury.
Marc-Andre Fleury.
Matt Murray is one of the more interesting cases, maybe in NHL history at this point. This is a guy who won 2 Stanley Cups
in his rookie year.
But he fell off hard. But where would you put him right now in terms of tier? Would it be a black tier then?
Ken Riggett. Really, the only reason he's in here is he's punching a flyer in the face. Dennis Horan here is like auditioning for Pittsburgh Penguins on Ice. Disney presents.
Right. Hello. I make a save.
Then we have Tom Damaso.
Who I'm pretty sure we've seen already.
Yeah,
in our tier list.
Yeah, with Buffalo, his name, the dumbass was on that list too. More time in Pittsburgh, really well known in Pittsburgh. He played well there. I mean, he's a black tier. Now we're looking between Tom Barrasso and Matt Murray for the number 2 spot. I want it to be Matt Murray, but I know it should be Barrasso. And now off to the, what the fuck did we just get ourselves into? These centers.
We have Sil Apps Jr., Stu Barnes, Michael Bullard, Sidney Crosby, John Cullen, Ron Francis, Jan Hrdina, Robert Lang, Mario Lemieux, we talked about the face of the franchise, Evgeny Malkin, Dan Quinn, and Ron Schock.
Okay. And again, I think we can go through here. I don't know if I want to go through all the players individually again, just because of the list that we have here. Dan Quinn is easily a yellow tier player. With that being said, Dan Quinn is definitely not making this team. He's not. And he's a yellow tier and he's immediately eliminated. So that should give you an idea of why Ron Schock, Robert Lang, Jan Hrdina, Mac Bullard, and Stu Barnes, and John Cullen can all piss off. John Cullen is another yellow tier. Dan Quinn I'm taking first, but they're both yellow. They're both out.
Yeah.
So who did I not say was eliminated? We have Sil Apps Jr., Sidney Crosby, Ron Francis, Mario Lemieux, Evgeny Malkin. These are all not just yellow. These are all like gold tier. Every single one of these players, every single one of them, you can legitimately talk about for face of the franchise. He named Mario Lemieux the actual face of the franchise. Does he get the number 1 spot? No, he doesn't. He is the face of this franchise. Sidney Crosby's the better player.
Sidney Crosby for me is the greatest player of all time.
How people miscategorize Sidney Crosby. Sidney Crosby is the best grinding forward to ever play the game.
He absolutely is. He does the dirty work.
He is a third line center that puts up your points of an elite number 1 center.
I remember watching that first finals, one of those first 2 finals that Pittsburgh was in with Crosby. We both made note, like, man, he's going down blocking shots. Sidney Crosby, the face of the NHL pretty much at this point, was just going down blocking shots and doing the dirty shit. And
So Crosby's number one, but Mario Lemieux. Do you see his point total? It's almost 2 per game. So now
we got a problem. Because we have.
I don't think we quite have a huge problem yet because there's a substantial games played difference in favor of Evgeny Malkin. We still have Ron Francis and Silaps Jr. I kind of want to grab a coin and fucking flip a coin for this because I don't want to make this decision. I think I'm leaning towards Silaps because he was the guy in Pittsburgh. Ron Francis was not the guy in Pittsburgh.
Look at that center. I mean, you have Sidney Crosby, Mario Lemieux, Evgeny Malkin, Silaps Jr. And we just left off Ron fucking Francis.
We have Kevin Stevens, Sidney Crosby, Jaromir Jagr. Our bicentennial line gets broken up with McDonald, Mario Lemieux, and Pronovost on the second line. Gensel, Evgeny Malkin, Rick Kehoe on the third line, Chris Kunitz, Silaps, Mark Recchi on the fourth line, and our defensive pairings of we got some offense flowing, Chris Letang and Paul Coffey, and continue that with Randy Carlisle and Larry Murphy, Darius Kasparaitis and Ron Stackhouse, a more balanced defensive core, Marc-Andre Fleury and Tom Barrasso in net.
That has been the Lunchroom Syndicate. For Jay, I am Christopher. Until next time, deuces. Like, especially in Pittsburgh.
I lost Zunk.